Hey y'all, this is Richard. Today is April 2nd, 2022, and I've got three main things I want to talk to you about. But first off, I wanted to say that it's now been more than 14 days since my last COVID-19 patient, so our masks are now off in public, and we are, because of our other measures that are still in place, we are below the baseline public risk of spreading it to somebody else and without vaccines. So it can be done. Um, Government shouldn't be pushing this on anyone anymore. There's just no reason to at this point. But so government brings me to my first point for today, and that is this is probably the first time, and probably the only time that you'll ever hear me say something good about de facto President Biden, and that is that um, after his statement last weekend about saying Putin should be removed from his seat of power in Russia, um, he didn't walk the statement back. He did say that he's not changing America's official foreign policy to that, but he's saying that's his personal opinion on it, which, that leads me to believe that the statement probably was a gaffe. But you can't say stuff like that on the world stage in public when you hold that position unless you mean it. Um, so um, I expected that his fixers to just try to act like it didn't happen, or all the other stuff they do that doesn't really work anyways. Nobody believes them, but I still think it was a darn stupid thing for him to say, even if it is true, um, and it is true. But he at least stood by this statement and said he, at least on a personal level, means it. And even though I still think he's doing a garbage job as a president, that at least with me earns him a little bit of respect as a man. I still don't think he belongs in that office or anything anywhere close, but at least now, I have a tiny bit of respect for him as a man. So, second thing that I want to talk about today is also government related. This week, here in Greenville County, South Carolina, there was a school shooting at Tanglewood Middle School, and the first thing that local activists went to was saying, "Oh, we should have metal detectors in schools and all that." And it, number one, it's not feasible. But number two, if it's come to doing that, don't you think that there's a bigger problem, a problem with the population, the people? And that's kind of my underlying point on all this. Even one school shooting, even one child dead at the hands of another from a school shooting, is one too many. But there's a deeper problem that seems to be almost entirely on public schools, surrounding people and families whose children go to public schools, and that is the rot of our culture is being felt first and deepest there. And it is incredibly tragic that anyone lose their life there. but they're the kids there are losing their souls wholesale, uh, and I for the life of me, I don't know what can be done about it except don't send your children there. These Your children aren't going to get this kind of exposure to this kind of evil if they're not around the people who are doing it. And there's nothing more to be done with everything else, with all the wokeness and all the um, you know, liberal thought infestation that goes on there. I mean, this is not a tenable situation to be sending your children into, especially if you're a Christian household, Christian family, Christian kids. Um, it's This thing's going its own way, and brings me to my third point is the whole concept of wolves in sheep's clothing. And the other thing that happened this week is that I found out about a young person who was at the same church that we went to, not the current one, but the previous one. And that young person has decided to identify themselves by the name of their sin rather than by the name of Christ. They've walked away. And that's been less than a year. And less than a year since that church was dissolved. And it just leaves me bewildered. How did this happen? How much more was going on behind the scenes that we didn't know about. But this young person is not someone who I would have guessed that would happen to. And so something obviously went wrong, and I don't know what, and I don't know why. But it's the children are losing their souls because of what's going on in our culture, and this isn't something that's going to be fixed. God's taking his hand away from this country, this hand of protection, and trying to stick it out and saying, "Oh, well, these kids will be salt and light in the schools." No, they won't. They're being desalinized and snuffed out in these schools. You need to have them in an environment where you're building them into proper Christian adults rather than sending them to these schools that are more and more becoming indoctrination camps to have them stripped away from you. And, it does say in the Bible that the devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And that's exactly what he's doing to families. Some people, literally their lives, but more often it's their souls. So, don't let anyone get between you and your children, especially not the government. So, anyways, guess that's it for now.